Well, joining me now is the Shadow Minister for Domestic Violence and Safeguarding, Jess Phillips. And, well, Jess, we've been slightly overtaken by events because you came on to talk about the latest in the Chris Pincher issue. But, I mean, it does look as though he's in serious trouble now. What do you make of the two resignations?
Look, I think that Boris Johnson is probably done for, but this is Boris Johnson and he doesn't live by the standards set to most people. So we shall see. I don't see how ministers and secretaries of state can read Sajid Javid's letter and see Rishi Sunak's resignation and not think that staying is to dip their hands in blood. People like that, the Home Secretary, staying when the scandal is about sex crimes and abuse, which she is meant to be across. Similarly with the Justice Secretary, I hear Dominic Raab and Kwasi Kwarteng have both said that they are going to stay, but I just don't think that holds until, well, you know, the next half an hour. But you seem to suggest at the beginning you think he could survive this, do you? Look, Boris Johnson is a man who, in the face of absolute calamity, still believes his own hype. So I imagine that, unlike most people who would act with dignity, with grace, whether that was, you know, whether I agree with them or not, Theresa May post her no confidence vote, which she won by a bigger margin than Boris Johnson, David Cameron post the referendum result, even Margaret Thatcher, if I'm remembering back to when I was just a girl. Boris Johnson has no dignity. He has no standards. These things don't affect him in the same way that they affect others. And so Boris Johnson will today just be thinking about how he can save Boris Johnson. And somehow in that, he's uniquely talented. Yeah, I mean, he did admit when he spoke a few minutes ago, he did admit that it was a mistake to appoint Chris Pincher and he apologised. Do you think that was enough at all? No, I don't think it was enough. He also has said today that he's forgotten that he was told that Chris Pincher was a sort of serial perpetrator of these events and had undertaken a formal investigation. He said that he had forgotten. Well, as somebody who has had many of these cases brought to my door, you don't forget. So Boris Johnson has, throughout this process, as found by Lord MacDonald, who came out and basically skewered him red-handed for the lies. He didn't know a specific case. He didn't know any cases at all. He didn't know of a formal investigation. Well, all of those things have proved to be untrue. So when Boris Johnson says he wished it had been different, that it was a mistake, this is just more Boris Johnson lies. He'd do the same again. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if he was thinking about whether he should make him the Chancellor. But it is possible, I suppose, that, you know, Boris Johnson, as he claimed, or as Number 10 claimed, didn't immediately recall the briefing that he had. No, is it possible? No, it's absolutely not possible. I'm afraid to say, you know, we all have busy lives and lots of difficult things. And, you know, he is the Prime Minister. He also has hundreds of people who work on those busy lives for him, hundreds of advisors to remind him of things. It's absolutely not true. I'm sorry. It's just the story has changed so much to the point that Boris Johnson has no. I mean, it's like in a soap opera where, you know, they try and bring somebody back from the dead and they have to do it in a dream sequence. That is what their I forgot defences. It doesn't wash with me, I'm afraid to say, because everything Boris Johnson has said in the last 3 days has been a lie. This is a lie as well. What about implications for Labour if he does go? I mean, he's been polling pretty badly. The Tories have been struggling in the polls, losing by-elections. I mean, a new leader, whoever it is, would have a honeymoon period and, you know, may perform, certainly in the polls, possibly, you know, much better than Boris Johnson. Well, unlike Boris Johnson, I'm not only interested in what's the best for me and with self-interest. Of course, it would be better for me and my political party if Boris Johnson stayed in post, but it wouldn't be better for my constituents and it wouldn't be better for the country. And so the Labour Party has to beat whoever the Labour Party has to beat, and it has to do that on its merits, and that is what it will do. What are the calculations that other cabinet ministers will be making in the next couple of hours? What are your thoughts on that? Well, yeah, you have to decide whether he's going to survive and you want to keep your job, but regardless of your morality. There are some who have no illusions of grandeur in the future, and so they might just want to plod along and keep their ministerial salaries while their reputations and the reputation of their political party goes to the dogs. There's no doubt going to be some of those. But actually, the calculation now is, obviously, you always want to be the first or in the first tranche at the very least. Now it just might look like you were following and you didn't have the principles in the first place. But the reality is there's some good people in Boris Johnson's cabinet. I know that those who've had to go out on the television recently aren't necessarily the best examples of that. But you stay and you're basically saying that Boris Johnson is bigger than the Conservative Party, bigger than the country, and you dip your hands in his blood.
And just finally, Jess Phillips, the letter this morning, which prompted quite possibly these other two letters of resignation from Lord MacDonald, what did you make of that?
Well, what I made of it was that it must have taken a huge amount for Lord MacDonald to write that letter. Civil servants, across our newspapers and news, people bash them all the time and they don't have a right to reply. And they serve studiously often and they don't speak out. So for him to speak out, I think is absolutely a remarkable thing. But when you sign up to a code of honour, as we all are meant to in public life, if only Boris Johnson would just do the same, you sign up. One of the things that you sign up to is honesty and integrity. These are the Nolan principles of public life. He is a serving lord. He was a serving civil servant. He signs up to those principles and he lived by them. And I would encourage every single person who has to sign up to the Nolan principles to do the same.
OK, Jess Phillips, thanks for being with us.